May 24, 1977. Two security guards were preparing for their work as usual. It was around 11 o'clock IE. Both sat inside the cash van and left for the bank where the money was supposed to be delivered. All the money had been collected from the security company and was being sent to a bank in Arizona. But as soon as the cash van reached a deserted area of the desert, after going a little further, no one ever heard from the two guards again. It couldn't be figured out where the cash van actually was, the one carrying all the money. Even after a long time passed and the two guards didn't return, and the money was not found either. In the beginning, the police team thought this was a case of robbery. But after investigating for some time, police realized this wasn't just a robbery. This case involved shocking revelations that surprised everyone. This became such a big case at the time that days turned into months, during which the families of the guards and the bank whose money was in the van were all deeply worried. When, after a lot of searching, nothing was found about the two guards, at one point, it seemed like maybe they had gotten lost in the desert. But when the FBI team learned the truth about the guards' condition, they were completely shocked. The police had two theories in this case. First, that the two guards themselves stole the money from the cash van and ran away. Second, that some robber gang killed the guards and stole all the money from the van and escaped. But when other officers from the department where the guards worked were questioned, they said the guards were very honest, did their job properly and on time, and had never been involved in any theft. So it didn't seem likely that they had stolen the money. So what really happened in this case? How did the revelations unfold with time that shocked both the police and the FBI team? Let's start this case. On May 24, 1977, two security guards left in a cash van. One guard's name was Cecil, and the other was Russell Dempsey. They had been transferring cash from one bank to another for years. That day, they were carrying around $300,000, 0 cents, to be delivered to different banks. Shortly after they started, they heard a sound coming from the back door of the van. One guard stopped the van and stepped out. He noticed that the lock on the back door was broken, which is why it wasn't closing properly. So the two guards took the van to a maintenance workshop where the lock was fixed. It took about 1 hour, but it wasn't considered very late because sometimes deliveries got delayed before, too. After the lock was fixed, they took the van toward their destination. They had to travel around 200 from around 12:30 p.m. A call came to the security company from one of the banks, where the bank manager said the money hadn't reached yet, and asked where the van was. The officer from the security company told the manager that the van's door lock had broken, and fixing it took time, but he assured him the van would reach there soon. The bank manager calmed down and ended the call. But after 1.5 hours of waiting, the van still didn't arrive. Now the bank manager also felt something was definitely wrong, because it had never been this late before. He called the security company again, but they had no idea where the cash van was. Since this van was carrying money from multiple banks, radio contact was attempted through walkie-talkies, but no response came from either of the guards. After several failed attempts, nobody could understand where the van or the guards were. It was now 4:30 p.m., and still the cash van and the guards hadn't reached the bank. So the security company and bank employees called the police and reported the incident. After that, the FBI team and the local police department officers reached the last known location of the cash van and started searching along the route the van was supposed to take. That area was a remote desert region, part of northwest Arizona. Though it was very hot, the search for the two guards continued. It was a large desert area, and even after several hours of searching, neither the cash van nor the guards were found. Not even a single clue was found in the deserted area that could lead to the guards. Now, since the case had become very popular and several days had passed, people were confused about what had actually happened. The FBI team came up with a theory. Either the two guards ran away with the cash van and stole the money, or, in the remote desert area, someone killed them and stole all the cash. As every hour passed, In the beginning, even the FBI team didn't understand exactly what had happened. Everyone believed it was just a robbery case. But later, the FBI realized this wasn't just a missing van or missing guards. This was a pre-planned robbery. A robbery in which not only the van was stolen, but the planning behind it was extremely dangerous. It was already night during the ongoing search, but the police still had no clue about the two guards. At this point, the police officially recorded the incident as a robbery case and began their investigation. In the beginning, the FBI team and the security company goes to the place where they used to work. After reaching there, when the rest of the officers are asked, it is found that both those guards had been working there for almost the past 10 years. They always did their work on time, with a lot of hard work and honesty, and never before had there been an incident where they tried to steal money. Whenever they used to go out with the cash van, the same amount of money would reach the bank, as was kept in the van initially. After that, the FBI team questioned both guards' family members as well. It was found that neither of the guards had any financial problems, nor had they taken any loan from anyone, because of which they would be forced to commit such a big crime and execute a robbery. After questioning the security company and their families, the FBI team had understood that both guards were very honest and probably had not committed the robbery. That is why the investigation of the case was started in the next possible way. When the FBI team checked the map of that area, they found that the route through which the van was being taken was spread across a 200K area. That region was deserted, and due to many roads not being proper, the path was rough. The FBI team had a hint that if this was a pre-planned robbery, and if some gang had gone there and first taken them hostage and then stolen the cash kept in the van, then first of all, it would be very difficult to find those two guards in that deserted area of the desert, because the area itself was too vast. Finally, a helicopter from a police department in Arizona was sent to that place, and the cash van and both guards were searched in that deserted area. For quite some time, the entry and exit points of that area and every corner were searched, and finally, about 1 km from the highway, near a small town, the police found that cash van, which was parked on a completely deserted road. There were many marks on the tires of the van as if it had been braked suddenly. Now, the news of the van being found was immediately given to the FBI department, and within a short time, FBI officers also reached the location where the van was. Within a short time, FBI officers also reached the location where the van was. Headed there, they found the van and found a person sitting in it. When the van was checked, it was found that both its doors were locked from the outside and the two guards were missing inside. Near the van, the police found some footprints, from which it was understood that some people were present at that spot earlier. However, the police did not find any clue that could confirm this was an attempt of looting. After that, the locks of the van doors were broken, and when the police checked inside, everyone was shocked. There were bloodstains at several places inside the van, and behind the van, the police found a bag that had many coins in it. Besides that, the guard's shotgun was found inside, and after checking it, it appeared that the shotgun had not been fired even once. The walkie-talkie radio inside the van was on which several calls had been made earlier. It was found that there were several bags inside the van, which had around $300,000, 0 cents in paper currency, and that bag was missing. When the investigation team thoroughly investigated the site, near the footprints found by the van, there were also tire marks of another vehicle, which were heading in a different direction. So, the police team now took help from forensic experts, so that plaster molds could be made from those fingerprint and footprint marks, which would help in better understanding the crime scene. By now, it was guessed that whoever committed this robbery, it was a pre-planned one, and the person already knew the exact route through which the cash van was going to be taken, and to which bank it would be delivered, and how much money would be inside. Within a few days, newspapers all over Arizona carried the headline that about $300,000, 0 cents, were stolen from a van in a deserted area of the desert, and both guards were missing, and even after extensive searching, they had not been found. This incident shocked everyone. Although the case was not yet solved and the two guards were not found, some newspapers had already published reports that both guards were guilty, and they themselves stole all the cash from the van and ran away. However, the police had no evidence against the two guards yet. In fact, the FBI team and the police believed that the robbery was committed by someone else, not the two guards. But the news had become so popular that every piece of evidence and update about the case was being reported on television news. This led the public to form various theories about the case. Some people even assumed the two guards to be guilty and started calling them cheaters. And now that the case had become so popular and was running constantly on news channels, the FBI was ordered to solve the case as soon as possible. Sometime later, calls started coming into the FBI department, in which one person claimed that while he was going by bike on that road, he saw a van on the right side of the highway. That bike rider also claimed that he saw a man in a police uniform who was quickly heading toward that van. Everyone's statements were different. Some said they saw a police vehicle there. Some said the person in the police uniform was wearing a cap. The FBI team also got confused and could not understand what was going on. After that, the FBI called the police and tried to find out whether, when the van was being transported and on that route, any police officer from any police department had gone there or not, and whether any officer had stopped the van. No police officer from any police department in the city had gone there. This meant that the person present at that time in a police uniform was not actually a police officer, but an imposter. And he must have stopped the van and told the guards that he was a police officer. Although this was still just a theory, and there was no solid evidence in the case yet to prove it. Now, the team once again went back to the place where they had found the van. Every inch of the area around it was checked again. There, some new fingerprints were found which were leading toward the van where it was parked. Just a short distance from the van, the police found tire marks of another vehicle. They began to think that this must be the same vehicle, which looked like a police car. The way it was designed, the footprint marks found there indicated that 2 or more people were involved in this robbery. After that, a theory was formed that the robbers had likely blocked the cash van from the front using a vehicle, then got out of their car and started transferring all the cash from the van into the vehicle they had arrived in. Once all the cash was loaded, they fled the scene. According to the FBI, since this was a pre-planned robbery, the perpetrators had likely been tracking the cash van for a long time. As soon as the van reached the deserted area of the desert, they stopped it, stole the money, and drove away. The tire marks of the vehicle also suggested that something heavy had been loaded into it. However, one thing the FBI couldn't figure out was what had happened to the 2 guards. If they were alive, where were they? The entire deserted area of the desert was searched thoroughly, but no trace of the 2 guards was found. Since bloodstains were found inside the cash van, and there was no other significant evidence, the case remained unsolved for nearly a month. Conflicting statements from witnesses left the FBI department confused, and some even lost hope of ever finding Cecil and Russell alive. For some time, no major leads came in, and the case stalled. But nearly 2 months later, the FBI received a piece of information that changed the course of the investigation. 2 fishermen, who were out on a boat in a pond, suddenly spotted a dead body floating in the water. They immediately reported it to the police, who then informed the FBI. When the police arrived and pulled the body out of the pond, they were shocked to see that it was one of the missing guards, Russell. His body had been dumped in the pond after he was murdered, and his identity card was still in his pocket. What had initially been a case of robbery and missing persons had now turned into a murder investigation. The pond was thoroughly searched, and during the investigation, 2 wooden sticks tied together with a rope were found. Later, the forensic doctor sent a report to the police department, revealing that Russell had died from strangulation, which caused oxygen deprivation in his blood, leading to a heart attack. When divers searched the pond further, they soon found the second guard's body. His body also bore multiple injury marks, indicating that he had been brutally beaten before being killed. The FBI now realized that this wasn't just a pre-planned robbery, but also a cold-blooded murder. The robbers had decided in advance that after stealing the cash, they would eliminate both guards. Following this, the FBI began tracking individuals with prior criminal records who might have had a motive for the robbery. Re-examining the evidence, they came across a criminal named Michael Poland. A day after the cash van went missing, the FBI received a call from a truck driver who reported that Michael Poland had contacted him to help pull a car out of a pond. The driver mentioned that Michael seemed heavily intoxicated at the time. When the truck driver arrived and pulled the car out, he noticed that the back seat was torn and had heavy marks, as if something bulky had been placed there and later removed. The slip used for the towing service was signed under the name Michael Poland, further raising the FBI's suspicions. The FBI then gathered more evidence against Michael Poland. During the investigation, they learned that Michael had purchased a boat the day after the robbery and had taken it to the same pond where the guards' bodies were later found. It became clear to the FBI that Michael had some role in the robbery and murders. The FBI also began monitoring Michael and his younger brother Patrick, as they strongly believed that 2 or more people were involved in the crime, a theory they had held from the beginning. Surveillance revealed that after the robbery, Michael had bought a new bike and Patrick had purchased a new car. Their sudden, lavish spending spree raised red flags, as their previous jobs couldn't have afforded such luxuries. Even their family members noticed the drastic change in their behavior. They had once been low profile, but suddenly became overly confident and started spending excessively. The FBI contacted the bank to check their financial records and found that before the robbery, both brothers were in poor financial condition with multiple loans. But after the robbery, their lifestyle changed dramatically. They repaid all their loans and started spending recklessly. Though there was substantial evidence against them, the FBI needed concrete proof to arrest and interrogate them. On July 27, 1977, the FBI obtained a search warrant and raided the brothers' homes. At Michael's house, they found $12,000, 0 cents in cash, weapons and receipts showing he had purchased guns before the robbery. At Patrick's house, they also recovered cash, weapons, and receipts, one of which was for a bag matching the description of the one used to carry the stolen cash. The marks on the back seat of the car pulled from the pond matched this bag. The FBI then visited the store where the bag and weapons had been purchased. The shop owner told them that the bag had been bought by someone named Henry, which initially confused the FBI. However, they soon realized that Michael had likely used a fake name for the purchase. With enough evidence, the police arrested both brothers. Initially, during interrogation, they denied any involvement in the robbery and murders. But when confronted with the overwhelming evidence, they broke down and confessed. After their confession, the FBI handed them over to the police department, and they were jailed. The prosecution then built a strong case to ensure they received the harshest punishment possible. The evidence presented in court clearly proved that the brothers had meticulously planned the robbery and, after stealing the cash, mercilessly killed both guards, dumping their bodies in the pond. In February 1979, during the trial, the prosecutor laid out the case, explaining how the brothers had tracked the cash van, posed as fake officers to stop it, stole the money, and then murdered the guards. The case was presented in a way that highlighted their greed-driven crime and the tragic loss of 2 innocent guards who had been working honestly for years. The court found both brothers guilty on all charges and sentenced them to 100 years in prison each. Later, the Arizona Police Department filed additional robbery and murder charges against them. In a subsequent trial, with more evidence presented, they were again found guilty and sentenced to death. The guards' families were relieved, believing justice had been served. However, their relief was short-lived. In 1980, the brothers appealed their death sentences. During the retrial, due to circumstantial evidence and lack of concrete proof in some aspects, their death sentences were overturned, and they were instead given life imprisonment. Though the families were disappointed, They accepted that the brothers would spend the rest of their lives in prison. The court also ruled that they could apply for parole after serving at least 8 years, subject to approval. After sentencing, the brothers were sent to prison. However, a few years later, Patrick fell seriously ill and was hospitalized. During treatment, he attempted to escape but failed. Once recovered, he was sent back to prison, where Michael had already been serving his sentence. This case gained immense popularity because it wasn't just a robbery. It involved the cold-blooded murder of 2 innocent guards. Unlike typical robberies where only money was stolen, this case showed extreme brutality, making it stand out. The meticulous forensic reports and the relentless efforts of the FBI and police departments were highly praised. Despite initial confusion due to conflicting witness statements, the investigators eventually tracked down the brothers, gathered irrefutable evidence, and secured justice for the victims' families. This case became a landmark, demonstrating how greed could lead to heinous crimes and how thorough investigative work could bring criminals to justice.